I made this graduation dress for my daughter, and you won't believe I made this corset dress using the freehand method. If you are interested in watching how I did this, please like, share and subscribe to my channel so you can enjoy more videos like this. But first, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Lilian of Lilian Fashion Lounge, and I talk about everything fashion, pattern drafting, online and physical tutoring, and many more. So let's get started. So in this video, as I said earlier, I'm going to be trying the freehand method to make a corset dress, because she actually demanded that I make it a corset dress, and she's too young to be wearing corset dresses. So I decided to compromise. So if you are one that wants to wear a corset dress and you don't know how to do it with pattern, watch this video to the end, and I promise you're not going to regret it. So I'm going to start with the material earlier, which is the brocade material. So this is the skirt. I'm going to make the skirt first. So I first of all folded my fabric into two, then got the waist, the hip and the knee length, then the full length. So after doing that, I went ahead to measure my hip divided by 4. And meanwhile, don't forget that this is a freehand method, so I'm going to be adding enough allowance while making the dress. So after marking it, I went ahead to measure the hem also. The hem is what will be the measurement of what you measure at your hip, at your knee, is what I'm going to use for the hem. So I went ahead to join everything with my chalk. Then after doing that, I went ahead to add my sewing allowance, which is 1 inch, 1.5 inches. Then as you can see, I'm joining them with my tailor's chalk. So after doing that, I went ahead to cut out the front skirt. This is the front. So after cutting the front, I proceeded to cut the back, and obviously we all know that the back is going to be having a zip, but because of the style that she chose a front. The opening will be at the front, so I'm going to open it. I'm going to add a zip allowance, which is basic, which is the necessary thing to do, and I'm going to open it. But while sewing, I'm going to close it back. I'm not going to open it. There will be no opening at the back. If you decide to make this same style, or if you decide to make a skirt and you want it to be freehand, please don't forget to open it at the back. Cutting, I'm going to be using this opportunity to announce to you guys that there will be a free 3-day workshop in Ibadan. If you are in Ibadan or you are close to Polytechnic Axis and you are curious about pattern drafting, there will be a free 3-day workshop, pattern drafting and sewing workshop. So if you are interested, please comment in this video, let me know so that I can register you and we can take it from there. And if you're also interested in pattern drafting and you want to learn more, my September batch is going to be open. It's going to be starting on the 1st of September. So if you're interested, send me a DM, and you're in Ibadan, send me a DM so that we can start from there. So after cutting the skirts, I'm going to proceed to start the main reason of cutting this dress, which is the corset top, the mini corset top, or we can call it Bustier corset top, because it is not actually a corset, but it gives the illusion of a corset. So the first thing I'm going to do is to measure the full length, which is the top full length, which is the shoulder to the hip. Then after doing that, the first thing I'm going to be doing is to measure her bust height. I'm going to be measuring all the vertical lines. So after measuring that, I'm going to go ahead and measure the upper bust height. Now this is because the reason why I'm measuring this is because she's a young girl, so I don't want her bust to be exposed. So that is why I'm using this as a criteria. This is not necessary. This is just an I improvised. So I measured the waist, the under bust, the bust, and the upper bust, as you can see here. Then after doing that, on the top line, I'm going to measure the shoulder length. I'm going to measure her shoulder length, divide by 2, of course, with sewing allowance. Don't forget that this is a fabric. If you are using the pattern, we will not add the allowance, we add it on the fabric. But because I'm cutting directly on the fabric, I'm adding all my sewing allowance. So why after measuring the shoulder length, I'm going to go ahead and measure the waist, the under bust measurement, divide by 4. Don't forget that I'm going to be adding extra allowance for this. But before that, the first thing I'm going to do is to get the darts. So I use her nipple to nipple to get the dart. Then I went ahead to I measured the nipple and nipple on the under bust, the bust and the bust measurement, and also on the upper bust. So after getting, I also measured 1.5 inches on each side of the dart to get the under bust contour. So I went ahead to connect this to the length, the hip. Then I'm also going to go ahead and connect it, just like you are seeing me do here, connect it to the upper bust. So on the bust point, on the bust line, I'm going to go ahead and measure the bust circumference divided by 4. Of course, with the extra allowance. Then I'm going to be measuring the under bust circumference on the under bust line. Of course, with the extra allowance. So on the hip line, or you can call it the hem line, I'll measure the hip divided by 4 plus sewing allowance also. Then I'm going to connect it with a ruler. So from the shoulder, from the top line, I'm going to measure I'm going to connect it from the shoulder tip to the arm, to the upper bust there, then connect it to the under bust. So on the hem, I'm going to connect it like that. I'm going to measure 1.5 inches at the side, then use my hip cuff to connect it that way. So I wanted to add the sweetheart neckline for her, but she said she doesn't want the sweetheart neckline, so I did not go ahead with cutting that. So but if you want to cut that, you can go ahead and do it. So what you're going to do is, at the center front, you come down by 1/2 inch, depending on how low you want it to be. Then you cut it out, you connect it and cut it out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to label. I'm going to be labeling it. As you can see me doing here, I went ahead to label. So after labeling, the next thing I'm going to do is to add my sewing allowance and cut it out. So while cutting your the dart area, don't forget to leave sewing allowance because it is very important. So we are done with cutting the front, so we are going to move to cutting the back. So the same process I'm going to use with cutting the back. The only difference is there will be no bust under bust cut for the back. I'm just going to be using the regular darts. Every other thing is the same thing, just the under bust cut, because of course the under bust does not have the back does not have a bust cut, so that is the reason why. And if you are making a regular freehand top, it is advisable for you to measure the back waist differently, because the back waist is always different from the front waist. And the reason why I didn't do that here was because it is a corset back, so the bonings are going to hold the waist for the back, so it is not needed. Now, one other thing I forgot to talk about was that the back, the upper bust is not what I'm going to be using. The neckline for the back is going to be different from the neckline for the front. So that is the reason why it is a little bit reduced, because I want the back to be lower. And don't forget, I also said that the back length is always lower than the front. The back waist is always lower than the front. So yes, that was what I did there. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut all my material, my main fabric. I'm going to be cutting them on my lining material. And please, before I forget, if you decide to use this freehand method, don't forget to make sure that your lining is shorter than the main fabric. If you make it equal, it is going to be longer than the length of your fabric is going to be longer than your actual length. So please take note of that. So due to the fact that I don't want this video to be very long, I'm going to be doing the sewing part of this tutorial in another video. So see you guys in the next one, and please make sure you subscribe, share with your friends, let them also learn from this video. So see you guys in the next one. Bye.